Well, we are down to the last few steps of getting this chassis ready. We're going to start building the rail system here in a little while. We just got the PTO switch put in. Sarah's putting the rest of the dash and everything back together. And we'll get this kick panel on here. We ran the wires over and across and down to the PTO. What I'm doing now is I'm getting the power plug that the body or the tank or whatever is going to plug into. I've got to get that wired, and then, like I said, the chassis here will be ready. We'll run down this eventually with a wire wheel, clean up this frame a little bit so that when we go to paint the rail system, it will be, of course, ready for paint as well. We have the PTO and the pump installed. We worked on the vac truck yesterday, and on the last segment here I didn't have a chance to go into what everything looks like here after we got it put together. So we ended up installing the PTO here the other day. That's the blue piece there that goes down into the transmission. Now that can be mounted either on the top side like we have it, or it can be mounted down on the left side. However, on the left-hand side of the frame rail, it is really tight, and it is a real mongrel getting that in there. So we've got the pump mounted to the back of the PTO. That's the red piece. And then we ended up building a bracket that bolts to the top of the transmission to kind of support the back side of that pump. Now, we were able to run these hoses a little differently than we did on the last two trucks. We had the hoist in here on the last two trucks, and this pressure hose here I ran off the pump, come down through the frame rail. I'm up over the top of the cross member here and down in by the air tank. I suppose I could have done that with those other trucks too. The hoist was just right here. That would have been fine. However, that's the way we have this one. We ended up putting this pressure hose in a piece of fire hose to just kind of protect it. And then we have the suction hose coming from the tank going over to the left side of the pump. So once we get the power plug hooked up in the back, we'll go ahead and turn this hydraulic oil on, the ball valves that are down on this tank here, and we'll charge the system. We'll join back up with you in a moment here. We'll get our plug wired in the back. Sarah will get this dash back together completely here, and then we can start the truck up and run it. Here is the view from the top side of what that PTO looks like mounted down on top of the transmission. It's a real easy job to put these PTOs in these Freightliners because there's so much room above the transmission. We ended up putting the switch, the rocker switch. It's a hot shift PTO, so you can engage this PTO at any time. You really should be idled down in below 1,000 RPMs, but at any rate, we've got that electric switch on the dash there. The first truck we did, there was a PTO switch on the dash already. It came from the factory that way, but this one here and the other one, they weren't wired for a PTO. There's a lube line that you hook up as well. We'll just roll in underneath here. Why don't we do that? There's a lube line that you have to hook up coming off the side of the transmission here, and it is right there. You have to run that lube line up so that PTO gets oil, because being that it's mounted on top of the transmission, it really doesn't get any oil push to it. Now, if I can find, all right, there's the other spot in the transmission, or on the transmission, right there. That's the other spot we could have mounted that PTO. And you could just see how tight it is right here to mount that PTO. It is, I've done a couple of them down on this left-hand side on these Allison automatics. They are not fun. They're not fun at all. The pump would come back to about here, and then you're trying to put all them fittings on there. It's real hard to get everything pushed back in there. We got battery cables and cooler lines and everything else that kind of have to be relocated here, if you will. But it makes it nice with these Freightliners to have the amount of room that is between the transmission and the bottom of the cab here. I mean, you can just see how much room there is there. Now, another thing that we did too was we ended up moving this dipstick tube to the back of the cab. Now, originally this dipstick tube, it stuck down in the right-hand side of the transmission. It come up over the top of the transmission from the right side, came over to this left side. There's a bracket up in there that it was kind of mounted to. And then this tube came up into the engine compartment here, just ahead of the firewall, just in behind all these hoses that are coming off of the throttle valve. It was basically right down in this area here. No big deal, easy to pull your dipstick out, check your oil level. But as far as doing any service on the transmission, you've got to dump all that oil down in through that tube there. So being that they had this dipstick tube located where they did, there was enough room between the pump slash PTO. I can't remember really exactly what this dipstick tube was closer to, whether it was the pump or the PTO, but it really doesn't matter. I worried about it was the pump or the PTO was going to rest on this tube, and I worried about getting a hole rubbed through that tube. So when we set up the first truck, I said, you know, I'm going to take that off, and maybe I'll just take and cut the tube and dipstick itself off, and we'll just run a little short guy down in here and just deal with that. That's where it's mounted down into the side of the transmission. And I said, well, another thing that we can do is we can bring this tube, maybe we can bend it some and just relocate it over on this other side. So this is the third one that we have done this way, and we didn't have to rebend that tube at all. It just fit very nicely in there. It just turned around. It's turned 180 degrees basically from where it was here before. So we're going to get our power plug hooked up on the back of the truck here, and we'll turn our oil on and we'll fire this. Hopefully we don't have any oil leaks, and we can get right to building this rail system. So we'll join up with you in a little while here. Well, Sarah's got this cab all put back together. Now what we need to do, we need to turn this oil on, see if we have any leaks. So why don't you crawl underneath there, turn both of those ball valves on, and start the truck up with the PTO, and we'll run this. Got a ball valve on the return and the suction line. Turn both of those on. Yeah, right down on the tank, them yellow handles there. We ended up getting this power plug plugged in as well. I didn't have the plug when I put these fittings on there, so we've got this wired in. We'll take these taillights off and put them off to the side when we paint this. Now, somebody had mentioned, why don't you have LEDs on there? These lights are only on there in the event that this truck runs down the road without a box or a tank on it. The truck box has LED lights on it. Now we've got the iron in here. We're getting ready to make the rail system that is going to go on this truck. So she's got both ball valves on. Now she's going to go ahead and start the truck. Going to start the truck up. She'll engage the PTO, and hopefully we don't have any oil leaks. All right, engage that PTO. Red light on. It is. All right, now we should have oil in the system. First thing we'll raise is the hoist. It's gonna have air in there, so it's gonna take a minute. At least we ain't got any, at least we don't have any oil leaking out of the valve body. I really worried about that since we had to put each and every one of these together. We had to stack them on top of each other, and it would be nice to have a valve stack stand. We put them together upside down, meaning the O-rings were on, they were suspended over the top of the next valve. It'd be nice to have it the other way around. So we ended up getting some juice to the hoist. There's air in that. That doesn't want to go down now. So why don't we power something that is going to deadhead, which is going to be the winch. We've just got, actually that's not going to deadhead because I have the one port hooked into the other. Well, it will deadhead. So we're running 2000 PSI right there to that number one valve, and then number two is what is two? That is the boom up and down. Then this one here is the tailgate. We're good there. We don't have any leaks. This one is the spread plate. The spread plate is single acting spring return. So we got that powered. We're just going through the functions. We want to make sure nothing leaks here. This one here is, I think I said the other one was tailgate, but this one's actually the tailgate here. And you can see the gauge moving there. We've got to bump our pressure up here. We're banging like, well, wait a minute. No, we're hitting where we need to hit. We're banging right around 2750 to 2800, which we can dial this relief valve in a little bit. So I just did the tailgate, and then this one here is for the spread motor on the back of the tank here. So it took a little bit to charge because this is a motor spool. You can see it's got the air in there, and we're just pushing oil to these fittings, and they'll have a little bit of air against them once we hook things up. We have to cycle the air through it, and I am just surprised that we do not have any oil leaks here, which I'm glad for that. So very good. Make sure we don't have anything leaking out of the pump here. That all looks good. So we can push this outside. Put the tailgate in the down position, and you can turn the PTO off. That hoist is going to stay up for a while because it's got air in the system. So we'll pull this outside, move it over to the big bay so that they can pull the John Deere truck in. We've got a muffler that we need to put on the John Deere truck, so we're going to let them pull in and have this bay. That fell off the other day. And then what we need to do is we need to turn one of those pieces of angle iron around so we could have the legs both sticking out from each other. We'll leave the truck outside so that we can measure it and get the cross members put in the right spot for the rail system. We need to jump that hoist. So we'll sweep up here, let them pull that truck in. We'll turn one of them angle irons around, get those angles cleaned up. Just move over there. We are not going to use the jig for building the rail system. It's not needed because we have the center cross member pieces for this rail system are already pre-cut, and we'll be able to get that exactly at the right measurement, and we'll be able to get it parallel as well. So we've got a bunch of them already pre-cut here, and we need to run down this with a wire wheel to clean the scale off of there. They are working on this truck 12 here, getting ready to do the same thing that they did to the green Diller. The Diller trailer, the fenders were rusted out on this, so they took the fenders off, and they're gonna come over this with POR 15, and then Jason will top coat this with it's just a Martin Senior paint that we get from Napa. It's a commercial coatings, gloss black. So they're gonna pull this outside in a little while here and do the acid wash on it and pull it back in, and it'll be ready for morning, right?
Yeah, definitely.
They had to,
Idea though. Lifting it up just a little.
yeah, you could. Oh, oh, down in here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can hear the John Deere trucks a little loud. Give her! Everybody wants to hear that 3176. Whoa. This truck has a 3176 in it, which is same as a C10. Doesn't sound nowhere near what a C15 or a 3406E sounds like. Yeah. This guy's got some injuries on his neck here. Just for the record, it's not work related, all right? Did you hear the new law in New York State? Come April 1st, you cannot modify an exhaust system on a vehicle. It's against the law. So any exhaust modification, just for the record again, you were not doing it at work. We don't want the law coming down on us for modifying any of these exhaust systems. That's why we are trying to get this muffler back on here, you know?
Gonna have to.
Yeah. So, just for the record. We don't want anybody to know about this non-muffler on this 4620 either, so that is not stock. We'll have to keep that off the roads, or else we will get a $1,000 fine. Did you hear about that? That law for, I don't know if they're gonna crack down on it or not, but.
Well, they do that place on Hiawatha that's got the trucks already.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, well. Well, I better get to work. I can't walk around with this camera too much longer here. Well, we got the angle iron that we're going to use for the slide rail system laid out where we need it. This is 4x7 by ½ inch angle. We're using 4x7 angle pieces to put in for the cross members. We've got to put two face-to-face or leg-to-leg on each other up in the front, and then that's where we'll weld on the pulley for the cable system. And then we can strategically come back through and put them in up to where the hoist is. We'll put one a few inches away from where the hoist is. somewhere near the middle. And then we'll determine where the hoist sets, and then we'll put a couple in behind it. We also have a winch that is over here that we need to set in there as well. We've got some brackets already made for it, and we'll get that set in on the back side and get that welded in. We're gonna have the front facing that way so that we can just lift this up, back the truck in, and set it down into place. So we are gonna get welding here, aren't we? We'll kind of show you what they're working on outside here. They're rinsing this off here now. They've got the acid on there and they're taking it off. Garrett, he's just leaving. So that's what that looks like, all washed up. Then they'll bring this inside and they'll mask it off in the morning and put the POR on that bottom portion there and put the paint on top of it. Jared is working on this 4620. He had the fenders off of it. He had the whole front end piece off of there so that we could get that fuel tank fixed. And now he's just kind of, well, Sarge is helping him too. They're just kind of getting things put back together here. We've got this rail system all built. We've got it sitting on the truck. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna weld the tail hinge brackets on there. We've got the winch on here. We've got to wrap the cable on it. We've got to run the cable up through, up to this front pulley here, bring that back around, and get a hook on it and everything else. Once we get that done, then we can put the tank on it and we can put the tabs on the rails where the tank is going to mount. And then, being that it has those mounts on here, then we can bring the body in and make the mounts on the body to match the tabs that are on the truck. My uncle brought the tank over. That was on his 05. That's sitting right outside the door here. This truck here was this truck here is the first truck that I built a rail system on. And this one has the commercial valve assembly on it as well. We did things a little different on this one. We ran a single acting valve for the hoist by itself, and then we have come out of the Power Beyond on the outlet cover, come to a separate valve body assembly so that we could run this down to a lower pressure, slightly lower than the hoist. And then we ran everything through off the filter system. We got 2 filters on this one just because we're returning the oil off of 2 valve bodies. I don't know if that was necessary or not, but that's what we've got on there. So we're going to get things situated here, and then we'll join back up with you in a little while here. Jared's running the 8320 on the manure pump, so we'll go up and watch that run for a brief moment, and then we'll get back down here and get this truck put together here. Alright, this is the first that the 8320 has been put to work after Jared's done the work on it here. Got it on the manure pump, and he's gonna let it run for about an hour or so just to work everything in and to get things seated up here. So it's running pretty good. Working on the manure pump. Nate's agitating this, and then after a while here, after he gets this agitated, he'll send it to the lagoon. That pipe over there goes underground, and it goes north that way about 800 feet to the lagoon. What's the temperature? Cool. There, oil pressure. Turn his hydraulic flow down. He doesn't need to be running that much flow through that little valve body that's on the pump there. Get back down to the shop.
This won't work it enough.
This isn't working it enough, no? What about sending the manure down? It'll work it harder when you're sending the manure.
Yeah.
Jared doesn't feel it's working it hard enough. It's not getting up to temperature. Open that valve right there and send the manure to the lagoon. There that goes. Hey, is that bottom key open too? Bottom key open? No? Ain't enough work on it. Is it pulling it down? Any? No?
I don't know if we can. I don't know.
cardboard, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Jared doesn't feel that that pump is putting enough pressure on it, you know, work against the engine. What about the noon pump down there? Will that draw any more horsepower down in the lagoon?
Maybe the frac tank. I don't know about that pump. Maybe. You can't load.
Well, we've got the rails square and in place. Now we are welding in the tail hinge right now. I've got the inner tab going on, and then I've got the outer tab cut that's going to fit in underneath the sill, and then that'll get welded to the hinge itself. Got my uncle's truck in here. We're switching the hoist mount cylinders around here. They are not on. They got to be turned. I don't know if I put them together wrong or if he had this off at some point in time here. So we're gonna need to get them turned around and get them mounted right. They're mounted in the, well, they're off 180 degrees.
No, so we just sit there and power the hoist down.
Well, we are ready to now put this tank on so that we can get our tabs welded on the angle iron cell here. We just fired up the winch. Go ahead, power it. And we're winding up the cable on it. Believe it or not, we ended up hooking the hoses up the right way. In other words, what I wanted to do is have that lever so that you would pull the lever towards you and it would power the winch to wind it up. So we're just wrapping the cable on there. I probably got a little more cable than what I need here, but you want at least a couple of 3 wraps on the drum anyway. And here is our hook here. And we've got one whole wrap all the way across the drum. It's a little more cable than we need. All right, that's good. Now this winch has this lever on here, and you can run this lever. I shouldn't have done that. Now we got to wind it again. Oh well. So you would run that handle in that position there, and you'd be able to unwind the cable. So I'll just get this to lock back into gear here. If I could do it with one hand. Run this handle here, will ya? There it goes. All right, now we get to wind this again. So we had quite a bit of torque on that, or not really, but at any rate, we want to get that to go that way. All right, go ahead. We've got that wrapping the way it's supposed to, or the way I want it to wrap. I want it to come over the top of the drum that way so that it doesn't get caught on the angle iron. If you had it going the other way, it would be dragging on that angle iron coming off of the bottom of the drum. Depending on what kind of an application you have would depend on how you want to wind that winch. So like you've seen here previously, when we wound it up earlier, we had one whole wrap all the way across the drum. Now, the second truck that we built of our own, I didn't put a winch on that one. The first one, however, I did. And I ended up tightening the fittings into the orbit motor, the hydraulic motor that is, with an impact, which is a no-no, and I cracked it, but I didn't really put that much torque on it. It's probably just a cheap made orbit motor, and we ended up putting one on there that was, it didn't have the same ratio as the one that came off of there, and it ran this winch a lot slower. That's good. So we're not going to show you how you disengage this winch. What we're going to do now is we're going to go and put the tank on it, and then we've got mounting bars already made up right here. We'll set them across and underneath the angle irons here, weld them into place so that we have our mounting tabs all in the same spot. My uncle wants his trucks to work like ours do. What we have on our trucks is our tabs are, we can put any tank or any silage box on any one of our trucks. Now, this truck 12 here, Jason painted this bottom portion. I guess you'd call it the bottom. It's more than a third, probably about 40% of this tank. They cleaned all the rust off best they could. They put POR 15 on it, and then they top coated it with just a commercial coatings from Napa. It's a gloss black. Martin Senior, it's just a Martin Senior paint. And then in the morning, what they're going to do is they're going to put a new set of fenders on this. Jared's got the little dog in here, and I don't really know what he's doing exactly to it, but he had to put a new set of springs in it. Here, over the winter, Allied Spring did this, and he's thinking, I don't know if he's serious about it yet or not, but he's thinking about changing this over. Are you serious about doing that?
Yeah.
Changing over to, what are they called, hub pilots? Yeah. Taking these Dayton wheels off, which you know the Dayton wheels are stronger than a hub pilot. They're supposed to be stronger. Now, truck 6, the reason why that has hub pilots on it is because we kept breaking spokes. We would break this keeper off the back, and yeah, so we ended up slowly changing that truck over to, I don't know, do we have one Dayton wheel up front of that still? I don't recall if we do or not, but he has stud pilot on the front, and he'll change the back over to hub pilot. And what it'll require, the truck needs brakes now, I think, anyways, and the hubs will go right on these axles. So he's got to get, well, he's got to buy brake drums anyways. He's got to buy rims and hubs. Now's the time to do it if you need brakes. And I don't know what. Yeah, they're down there. So yeah. Well, we better keep at it here. We're gonna go put this tank on. Well, Sarah's getting backed into place here, and we have the forklift and the telehandler on each side. We're just going to lift the front of the tank up, and then we'll hook the winch to it, and then we can pull it on. All right, go ahead. Come in under, hold it. Go in underneath a little farther. You're not going to hit that fender, are you? Go a little farther. All right. Go ahead. Whoa. This tank here, they didn't cut a channel in the bottom of it to be able to put the D-ring down inside it. The other tanks that we have, we have a spot cut into them. All right, so Sarah's got to get underneath this. Once the sills get underneath there, I can hook the chain. Go forward, move over. We'll hook the chain on there and, or hook the cable rather. Alright, well, alright, now I can safely get underneath there and hook the cable. Alright, neutral, we gotta power that winch. PTO on. Correct the cable on the winch there. All right, once this cable gets tight, okay. All right, you guys can let it down. Once they back away, we'll have Sarah release the park brake. Alright, we don't have the hoist welded down. We've just got a couple of angle iron stoppers on there because we want to be able to take this rail system off once we get things to the point where we have everything welded on. The cable clamps didn't hold. Run up and get a 9/16 impact. All right, we have tightened up our clamps. We might need to put a couple of more on there. Usually, it doesn't pull that hard. But, all right, release the park brake. Got your foot off the brake. Try backing up some. Hold up a second. All right. Hold up, slow down. to the right. Hold it, stop. Stop. Again, we don't have the hoist welded down, so. 'Cause we want to be able to take this rail system off to paint it. Probably go down now. We get this position just right, we'll be able to yeah. Well, we got to pull that on there a little farther, and then we can get this thing mounted down. Well, that should just about do it for today. We ended up putting the tank onto this truck here so that we could match the tabs that are on this tank to the tabs that weren't on the rail system yet. So we've got those tabs on the rail system. We put the flatbed over onto my uncle's truck so that we could get the tabs mounted or welded onto the flatbed to match the rail system that's on this truck here. So once that's put together, it will match this one because, well, the tabs that were on this tank are on that truck too. So all of our trucks are interchangeable. We've got seven or nine, is it now? I think it's 9 now. Yeah, I forget how many trucks we have that have slide rail systems on them, and we can put either box or either tank on any one of them. So that's what we have going on with these 2 projects here. We're getting towards the end. We'll be able to put the silage box on this truck tomorrow, get the tabs put on the silage body so that it will match the rails that are on this truck. Then we'll have to pull the silage box back off and put the take the rails off, paint them, paint the chassis on the truck, and then put everything all back together. So that should about do it with what we have going on in the shop here. Once I get over to the house, I have to show you something I had to break down and purchase here. I actually bought it a couple of days ago, but my daughter went and picked it up here this afternoon. It's something that I use about every couple days, and I had to break down and replace the one object that I had here. So once I get over to the house, I'll show you what that is, and we'll close out this video here. Alright folks, I have just gotten out of the shower. I've even got one of Duffy's shirts on. I didn't realize that until I just seen it in the camera here. But I thought I would go ahead and show you what I had to break down and buy myself. I had to buy myself a new washing machine. The other morning I come down here to get ready to feed cows, and my old washing machine had run all night long, and it had a mess on the floor here. Now we have a drain that's on against that one wall there that drains out it drains outside. So I didn't have too much of a mess here on the floor other than this one carpet here. This remnant piece was soaked, and that soaked my socks, and we've got that dried out. I ordered this at Lowe's. This was $699. The last washing machine I had was like $359 or $349. And I had that just over 10 years. This is a Maytag something or other. It was on sale. It was it just come off of a sale here yesterday. I got it for $120 cheaper than what it's normally marked at. Amazing, huh? So it's still got the protective coating stuff on the display here, which we'll try to rip this off. I probably will have no such luck in doing so. But at any rate, this one is quite a bit bigger than the other one. Not quite a bit. The other one was like 3.5 cubic feet, and this one is 4.3 or 4.4. So this is the cleanest that you'll see this washing machine. I know a lot of you ask, you know, who does your laundry? Or, you know, your wife must have such a hard time doing your laundry. Well, I do my own laundry. This washing machine and dryer is what I use. I actually use the washing machine as a hamper. And then I pull the clothes out of the dryer, fold them, and go about my way that way. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up here, and we'll fire it up. We'll see how it works. All right, so I've got a couple of days worth of laundry that have stockpiled itself here. It was 2 days ago when this washing machine took a crap, and I had to, here's some wet towels. I had to get this one ordered, and Alex went and picked it up today. So we just got it fired up here a little while ago, and we're going to see how it does here. And I know you guys also ask what kind of detergent I use. I buy whatever my wife gives me here. This is all. And we just dump a little bit in there, like so. And we'll see if we can't maybe figure this out. What do we want here? Power wash, sprinkler control, hand wash, cold wash, soap. Let's see, we want deep water wash. I don't even know really how to run this. I usually run, we got a heavy soil level. Power wash, I guess. So we've started it. I don't know. I guess that's all I can do. Got the water on. There it goes. It won't fill with the lid open. But that's that. Like I said, it's got a 10-year warranty. However, the other one lasted just about 10, 11 years. So that's going to do it for this video, folks. Hopefully this one does as good as my old one did. And gives me 10 years like the old one did. So I'll peel this stuff off, and that is going to do it for this video. Take it easy, folks. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you at the next one. Whoops. We got heavy. There we go.